geology and environmental biology. She spends her time peering into mud puddles, but on glaciers. So this is kind of a segue. We're going to change locations in the world. She spends her time peering into those mud puddles to study the diversity of microbes in ecosystems. She's about to teach us essentially how glacier bugs are much cooler and stronger than we are. Please welcome Pacifica Sommers.
Hi. Is this thing on? No. Where's the on button? There's the on button. Now is it on? Oh, it says it's on.
It says the battery's,
Oh.
now it's on. Just took a while. All right, cool. Well, my name is Pacifica, and I might be disappointing my parents who named me that, but I'm not studying the Pacific Ocean. As you heard, I just study little puddles, but they are on a glacier in Antarctica, which is pretty cool. And to study these puddles, I essentially suck them up with a very fancy straw. It's like going to Jamba Juice, and instead of the soy protein boost, I get the glacial bacteria boost. That one's like $5 extra. No, I don't actually drink them. I bring these mud puddles, bottle them up, bring them back to the lab, where I extract the DNA and I sequence the DNA to find out what microorganisms are living in them. And as an ecologist, as you heard, I'm interested in the biodiversity of these puddles and how these ecosystems are organized. These ecosystems are made up of bacteria, all the way up to microscopic animals that have real-life superpowers that are like something out of an Avengers movie. And I need to better understand how these ecosystems work, so I'm trying to do experiments in the lab, which means I have to raise tiny little Avengers, which, given that they are extremophiles, they do live on a glacier, should be easy. But they're all a bunch of little Tony Starks, so they don't feel like cooperating. One of the most common animals on the glaciers, and definitely the cutest, is called a tardigrade, but it is better known to the internet as the water bear. No, internet, they're not really bears. In fact, water bear is a stupid name. They don't even look like bears. Not unless you've ever seen a teeny tiny bear with 8 legs. I haven't, and I've seen a lot of weird stuff through a microscope. But seriously, all of you should be able to tell the difference between a tardigrade and a bear. Tardigrades look like the love child between a tick and a raisin. And bears, as we heard, are humongous, fur-bearing predators with some weird habits. Tardigrades, like I mentioned, they're microscopic. They're less than 1 millimeter long, they're translucent, so they're see-through, so you need a microscope to see them. When you put them on a glass slide to stick them under a microscope, they just wave those 8 chubby little legs uselessly. They're running in place as fast as they can, and they're going nowhere because they can't get any traction on that smooth glass with their teeny tiny Donald Trump-sized paws. But if you give them something to stand on, like a gel coating, then they do just trundle along. And then they rear up on the last 2 of their 8 legs and they look around. And they keep trundling. Kind of like, okay, fine, internet, kind of like a bear. But another way you could tell the difference between a tardigrade and a grizzly bear is that tardigrades have piercing mouth parts. Actually, I guess grizzly bears also have piercing mouth parts in their mouths. But what I'm talking about on a tardigrade, it has more like a spear poking out of its face. And it stabs that into its prey to suck out their guts. Kind of like, picture like the shower scene in Psycho, but with the creature from Alien. Did I mention these animals are cute? I promise, they are actually cute. They're just really cool animals too, like literally cool. They're like Captain America or Austin Powers, because you can freeze them for decades and you thaw them out and they still look good. And in fact, they can survive not just freezing, but the freezing vacuum of space. We know this thanks to the Europeans. In 2007, a spacecraft essentially, I guess, let out some tardigrades to do their business and forgot to let them in. And 10 days later, the spacecraft landed back on Earth, and the tardigrades woke up. And we're like, man, I had the weirdest dream. So to survive outer space, the tardigrades had to survive not just freezing, not just a total vacuum, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, would boil your blood faster than dinner with your in-laws. But they have to survive ionizing radiation that would destroy their DNA, that would just bang it up. In fact, tardigrades can handle several times the amount of radiation that would nuke a cockroach. So the next time we have a nuclear power plant in the way of a tsunami or something, we need to call in the tardigrades to save the day. And they can do not just freezing, but boiling. They can do not just vacuums, but they can survive pressures at the bottom of boreholes in the ocean. And that's why all of their job applications brag about their cool head and ability to work well under pressure. But so tardigrades are sounding pretty indestructible at this point, right? Well, unless your name happens to be Pacifica. Tardigrades do not find me pacifying in any way. They find me lethal. So I was comparing the tardigrades to the Avengers, right? So I guess that makes Dr. Pacifica Sommers the tardigrades supervillain. I mean, I'm kind of like menacing, right? I've actually spent years in a hidden underground laboratory. The thing about hidden underground labs is they have terrible cell phone reception, unless you have Verizon. It sounds like I'm making a cheap joke about evil scientists. You guys don't even know how literally true this is in my case. My 6 years of doctoral research, I was based in this lab in what the department called the sub-basement of our building. That, for some reason, it needed a staircase that connected to nothing else, so none of the other students could ever find us. And yes, I had AT&T, so I had to run outside to check my text messages. Okay, back to tardigrades. I have this instrument in my lab called an autoclave. It's an industrial pressure cooker for sterilization. And when I say sterilizing in this case, I mean killing microbes, not castrating them. I guess castrating might be more humane, but I don't have tweezers that small. So when I want to kill me some tardigrades as Dr. Sommers' supervillain, I throw them in the pressure cooker. And I know I said that tardigrades could survive boiling and they could survive high pressures, but not both and not at the same time. So I just throw them in there for 45 minutes to call it good. And then while I wait, I check Facebook on my phone because I'm a millennial and now I have Verizon. So that's the first way I kill tardigrades. The second was by accident, I swear. And I did it by freezing them. I know, I said tardigrades could survive freezing. So the first time I froze tardigrades from a glacier in Antarctica and they died, I was like, whoo, I do have superpowers. Well, it turns out I froze them too fast. The way tardigrades are surviving all of this is that they turn into glass. That's quite the superpower. They turn into this glass-like state of suspended animation. And they do it by producing a protein called TDP, which sounds like something you should ask your doctor to get tested for after you found that weird thing. But when tardigrades are not in this state of mechanical, or of suspended animation, they have, when they're trundling around, drinking their algae smoothies out of their face spear, they have what we call in technical terms a mechanical vulnerability. They're easy to squish. So the third way I've killed tardigrades is assault and battery. I had this test tube full of tardigrades and I just wanted to count them. And so I took them out of what I call in scientific publications my 4-degree specimen incubator. It's a refrigerator. I took the test tube out and I gave it a good shake so I'd get a really representative sample of tardigrades. You can see where this is going. I got a really representative sample of really dead tardigrades. Actually, one of my colleagues had the nerve to suggest to me that maybe they're napping. I know kind of a lot about tardigrades, but I don't know everything. I actually don't know if they normally sleep. I would have thought the shaking would have woken them up, but just in case, I stuck them back into the the incubator, for a week, just to see what would happen. the tardigrades did not recover. They decomposed. So Dr. Sommers, supervillain, has discovered the tardigrade's fatal flaw. It takes them a while to turn into glass and protect their DNA from damage. So if they're on Team Avengers and Thanos shows up to conquer Earth, the tardigrades are gonna be like, wait, can you come back tomorrow? And Thanos is gonna be like, squish! So the real super survivors of this story are actually the other most common animal on the glaciers and in the puddles. They're apparently unknown to the internet. Maybe because they're weird looking. These are about the same size as the tardigrades. They're kind of running around with the tardigrades, hopping. I'll get to that. They have a long tubular body with a bulge in the middle, like, I don't know, a cantaloupe grew a head and tail, or a snake ate Michael Moore, or something like that. And they're called rotifers, not just because they're rotund, but for like rotisserie or rotation, because they've got this weird crown spinning on their head. It's actually made up of all these individual hairs that are individually spinning, and they're creating a whirlpool that they can use to swim, or they can hang on to something with their monopod, their one foot, and bob up and down and suck in algae and bacteria to eat with their whirlpool. And this monopod of theirs, of the rotifers, it has a gland on it that produces sticky substance, like Spider-Man. So remember when I committed tardigrade assault and battery by shaking up the test tube? There were rotifers in that test tube. They were fine. Spider-Man powers for the win. Rotifers can handle being dunked in liquid nitrogen, flash freezing them. Thaw them out, they're fine. So they don't need hours to get ready like the tardigrades. So ask the rotifer out on a date next time, not the tardigrade, and then you don't miss the start of the show. Looks like all the people that brought tardigrades tonight made it by now anyway. The rotifers can survive not just flash freezing, they can survive several times more radiation even than the tardigrades can. And they can do it while they're actually swimming around, drinking algae and bacteria, unlike the tardigrades that have to turn into glass to take that kind of abuse. So the rotifers are doing pretty well here. And you know, they're key to human survival. They're not only like surviving outer space like Thor or something, but there are thousands of species of rotifers all over the planet. Their eggs are the basis of food chains that support the major fisheries in the oceans. There are millions of rotifers in a square meter of soil that control the bacteria that affect our crops. So they're basically running our planet behind the scenes. So what I've basically learned from all of this research is that even though tardigrades get all the attention, they're basically running around in a cape pretending to have superpowers, when the real superheroes are their cousins, the rotifers, that are gonna save the world. So maybe next summer, the big blockbuster movie, instead of like yet another sequel of Alien versus Predator, we could actually see tardigrade versus rotifer. Although, like I said, rotifers are pretty weird looking, so we might have to cast somebody to play them like Benedict Cumberbatch. All right, thank you guys.